The entire room at the glass-walled restaurant in downtown Chicago seemed to hold its breath the moment Nora slipped the menu into the millionaire's hands. Hidden beneath the polished leather cover was a single handwritten line that would split his life open in seconds. Warning, she's doing this for the fourth time. Julian Mercer looked down, and the color drained from his face as if someone had pulled the ground from under him. Across the dining room, a woman in a soft yellow dress stood frozen near the entrance. Her eyes locked on him with a mix of fear, hope, and heartbreak, so deep it felt older than the city itself. If you believe kindness can change a life, like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, because this story is proof that one small act can save a broken heart. Nora Bennett had been working double shifts for months, her feet aching before sunset, her patience worn thin by long hours and short tips. She was 28, careful and quiet, the kind of woman people overlooked until they needed something gentle. She had grown up in a small town in Ohio and moved to Illinois chasing stability, not dreams. At Mercer & Stone, one of Chicago's most expensive restaurants, she served people who wore wealth like perfume and treated kindness like a luxury item. Julian Mercer was the most intimidating of them all. He owned towers, hotels, and half the skyline in rumors. Yet behind his tailored suit and cold expression, Nora had noticed something else over the weeks. He always sat alone, always left half his meal untouched, and always stared at the window as if he was waiting for a life that never came back. The woman in yellow had first appeared 3 nights earlier. Nora remembered her because she did not belong to the polished world around her. Her shoes were slightly worn, her hands were trembling, and her eyes looked like someone who had traveled too far just to be told no again. Each time she came, security turned her away before she could reach Julian's table. Each time, she left without causing a scene, but with a grief so visible that Nora could not forget it. On this 4th visit, Nora had watched the woman stand by the doorway for a full minute, gathering courage as though every step forward hurt. Something in the woman's face reminded Nora of her own mother, who had once stood through storms waiting for news that never arrived. So Nora did the one thing her instincts told her was right. She wrote the warning on the back of the menu and placed it in Julian's hands just as he was about to look away. Julian read the line once, then again, and the entire room blurred around him. The woman in yellow was not a stranger. Her name was Evelyn Mercer, and she was supposed to have died 22 years ago in a house fire in St. Louis, according to the official papers that had shattered his childhood. He had spent years believing she had vanished from the earth while he was still a boy, leaving him to survive through foster homes, hard lessons, and a promise that he would never need anyone again. He had built an empire out of pain and control. But the face in front of him, older now and marked by time, carried the exact curve of the cheekbones he had spent a lifetime trying to forget. What froze him most was not only the resemblance, but the silver locket she wore around her neck, the same one he had once hidden under his pillow when he was 8 years old. The woman had not come back by accident. After years of searching, of low-paid jobs, shelters, false leads, and one dead end after another, Evelyn had finally found a trace of the son she lost when a hospital transfer went wrong during a fire evacuation. For years, she had been told he did not survive. For years, she had lived with the guilt of that lie and the ache of a mother who never got to say goodbye. She had not stopped looking. When a former nurse in Missouri remembered the child with the scar on his wrist and the unusual last name, Evelyn had followed the trail north. She had come to the restaurant 3 times already because each time she saw Julian from across the room, her courage shattered. He was no longer the little boy in her memory. He was a powerful man, surrounded by money and distance. But on the 4th visit, she brought the locket, the old hospital bracelet, and a faded photograph she had carried for 2 decades. She was ready to face the truth, no matter how much it hurt. Nora saw the entire truth unfold before anyone else did. She watched Julian rise slowly, his chair scraping softly against the floor, and she saw Evelyn's hand shake when she realized he was walking toward her instead of turning away. The room remained silent, as if the expensive plates and crystal glasses had all been swallowed by memory. Julian looked at the locket, at the photograph, at the woman whose eyes were full of tears she had probably held back for years. Something in him cracked, wide open. All the money in the world could not prepare a person for the return of someone they were forced to grieve. He had spent his entire adult life believing he was unloved, abandoned, and unworthy of being found. Yet here stood the woman who had searched for him through every kind of ruin. The walls he had built around his heart did not collapse all at once, but they began to soften under the weight of a truth stronger than bitterness. For the next hour, the restaurant became a place of quiet healing. Julian asked for a private room, but not to hide. He wanted space to listen. Evelyn spoke of the fire, the hospital confusion, the years of believing her son was gone, and the shame that had kept her silent when life became too hard to explain. Julian spoke of foster homes, of birthdays spent in silence, of the cruel loneliness that had taught him to trust no one. Neither of them was innocent of pain, but pain was not the same as abandonment, and love had survived where everyone assumed it had died. Nora stayed outside the room, her own eyes wet, because she understood something in that moment. Sometimes the richest thing in the world is not a fortune, but the chance to be found. Julian did not erase the years of hurt in one night, and Evelyn did not expect him to. Healing came slowly, like dawn after a long storm. He visited her the next day, then the next. He paid for her medical care, but more importantly, he paid attention to her. He learned the way she liked her tea, the way she still folded napkins into small corners when nervous, the way she smiled when she heard old gospel songs from her childhood. Evelyn, in turn, learned that the boy she lost had become a man who still flinched when people left the room too quickly. They were both learning each other all over again, not as strangers, but as survivors of the same tragedy. And Nora, whose note had changed everything, was not forgotten. Julian asked about her life, her dreams, and why she had chosen compassion when it would have been easier to stay invisible. He later helped her enroll in college courses she had postponed for years, and he made sure she never had to choose between bills and books again. Before this story ends, please comment second chances if it touched your heart. Nora stood outside the restaurant one evening a month later, watching the city lights shimmer against the river, and she understood that her small warning had done more than stop a moment of silence. It had opened a door that had been locked for more than 20 years. Julian no longer looked like a man frozen by the past. He looked like someone finally learning how to live inside it. And Evelyn, who had once walked into a restaurant expecting to be rejected for the fourth time, left with her son's hand in hers, and a future she had prayed for in every lonely year. Some stories begin with pain, but the most unforgettable ones end with mercy.